not only because they are ladies, but they are professional ladies, Doctors Joan Wallins and Sharon Esdale. Dr. Joan Wallins and Dr. Sharon Esdale. Ladies and gentlemen, they have come to talk to us today about Alzheimer's. Now, it's very important that we pay strict attention because, as you would learn as we proceed, I'm sure, it is a form of dementia not to be taken slightly or lightly. But before I turn over to my two esteemed and illustrious ladies, just to remind you quickly that this afternoon, today, Thursday, at 5 o'clock, at the Girl Guides headquarters in Taylor's Range, all persons who are interested in contributing to the efforts to redevelop local cricket are invited to be there. Be early. It starts at 5, not 5:05. It starts at 5 o'clock at the Girl Guides headquarters. Those of you who are interested, male or female, male and female, those of you interested in resuscitating, reviving, reorganizing local cricket, please attend that session today. Thank you very much. Now, today's session of Frank and Candid will see us discuss openly and honestly all the issues surrounding Alzheimer's disease. What are the critical details that we ought to be aware of? And all your questions will be answered, of course, when we open the lines after we've had the introductory statements from our two lady guests. Dr. Rollins and Dr. Esdale, welcome to Frank and Candid, and it's over to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
So, yes, I will start off. I'm here, both of us are here this morning because we want to talk about Alzheimer's disease. This is September, as we all know, and September is World Alzheimer's Month.
Okay.
So all of the month, the whole month is World Alzheimer's Month. There was a time when we used to have World Alzheimer's Day,
Right.
and that is September 21st, and that remains World Alzheimer's Day. But it was decided that one day was not sufficient to commemorate and think about the problem and to think about the concerns of the persons living with dementia and their caregivers. So the World Health Organization, along with Alzheimer's Disease International, decided that a whole month should be dedicated to the concerns of persons living with dementia and their caregivers, and that is how we've come about a whole month. Now, each year there's a theme that goes with the month, and this year the theme is Let's Talk About Dementia, Let's Reduce the Stigma. The theme is such a good theme. It was used last year, 2019, and they thought it was such a beneficial theme because people were not talking about the dementia the way they should be talking about it. And so it gives us a boost, gives us an opportunity to continue to talk more about dementia. I should just say that I'm president of of our association here. Sharon's going to say a little bit more about the association in a minute, but I'm president of it and Sharon's our secretary. So I'll give Sharon a chance to say something at this moment.
Good morning.
Very good.
Good morning, listeners and viewers in our federation and across the globe. I am Dr. Sharon Esdale, former teacher at the then Bastyr Girls School, as well as Beach Allen and Tucker Clark Primary Schools. I also served as Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for several years. My last professional appointment was school psychologist in the St. Thomas St. John School District in the United States Virgin Islands. I am the holder of the Doctor of Philosophy in Psychology with a specialization in industrial/organizational psychology. As Secretary of the Alzheimer's Association of St. Kitts and Nevis, I deemed it an honor to join with our esteemed President, Dr. Joan Wallins, as we represent our association on this program, Frank and Candid. At this point, I will provide some information about our association. Our mission statement is to improve the quality of life of persons affected by Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and to provide support to their caregivers. There are 4 main objectives based on this mission statement. 1, to raise awareness about the disease, to establish a national family caregiver support group, to educate family, patients, and caregivers about the disease, and 4, to encourage government to implement policies to improve the lives of persons with dementia and their families and caregivers. The Alzheimer's Association of St. Kitts and Nevis launched in July 2014. We celebrated our 6th anniversary on the 24th of July this year. In November 2019, our association became the 100th member of Alzheimer's Disease International world body. Its headquarters is in Germany. Our association meets on the 3rd Monday of each month at the Girl Guides headquarters at Taylor's Range from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. For example, our organization provides an opportunity to explore and learn about memory loss and the many different stages of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. In addition, we invite various professionals to present on topics based on their field of study. Topics include, but not limited to, legal issues, community resources, and planning for the future. We share our ideas and experiences, and we also invite caregivers to do the same. We invite persons 18 years and over to become members of our compassionate organization. However, we understand that our scheduled monthly meeting may be a constraint for some persons. Therefore, we welcome you to become friends of the Alzheimer's Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. You can email us at alzskn@gmail.com, or you can give us a call at 760-5182 or 663-9182. I now turn back to our president to explain more about Alzheimer's.
No, before you do that, Dr. Rollins, Dr. Azil, you speak of meetings at the Girl Guides headquarters, and persons over 18 invited, quote unquote.
Yes.
So one does not necessarily have to be a victim or a caregiver or have any relationship, a direct relationship that is, to anyone suffering from Alzheimer's in order to be a member.
No, we don't.
So here is an invitation to all members of the general public. If you wish to learn more about Alzheimer's, and you will learn more, of course, from today's presentation, but generally, if you want to become a member, you want to engage in voluntary service, and you want to give back in some form, you think you can be of assistance, you think you can be an asset to the organization, you're invited to turn out. When is the next meeting?
Well, the next meeting, under normal circumstances, would have been the 3rd Monday of this month, the 3rd Monday of September.
Which is Independence Day.
21st.
The 21st, right. But because of the COVID, we have not been having our regular meetings, as so many other organizations have not been having their regular meetings. But we hope that by October, the 3rd Monday in October, that we will be able to meet again.
Okay.
But I just want to pick up a little bit on what was said about who we would invite and so on to the meeting. And you were asking the question as to whether or not one has to know somebody or someone, have a relative. You do not have to have a relative to be a member of our association. In fact, I have no relative who has Alzheimer's at this time. We hope we won't have any in the future either. And I have been involved in Alzheimer's work for many years. I was vice president of the Alzheimer's Association in another place where I worked before we came back to St. Kitts. And I have been president of this association for 6 years. So most of the people, in fact, most of our members are persons who care about the condition. They don't have it, their relatives don't have it, but they realize that there is something useful they can do in the association. And we don't actually like to refer to persons living with Alzheimer's as victims. We don't really want to see them as victims, so to speak. You know how it is. We don't want to do that. because of the related stigma and so on, which we will perhaps speak about in a little while. We like to speak of them as persons living with dementia, the same way when we used to talk about HIV/AIDS, we didn't want to say HIV/AIDS victim. We would say, persons living with HIV, and we knew there was a stigma to that as well, and how that has changed over time. So, as Dr. Esdale said, and as you picked up on as well, we are an association. We could do with more members. Right now, or most of our members are over 65 years old at this time. Most of our members are, excluding Sharon. I'm not including Sharon. But we could do with some younger members. So we would like to think that part of what we're doing here today is to share information which will help to attract additional members to the association.
Okay. Earlier though, in your initial presentation, Dr. Rollins, you seemed to kind of mix dementia and Alzheimer's as though they are related, as though they're interconnected, almost as though they're one and the same.
Good.
So in your continuing presentation, could you clarify the distinction?
Thank you.
If there's any?
That's a good observation, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. Dementia is an umbrella term for a number of conditions in which there's the changes in the brain over time, changes that lead to memory loss, lack of clarity in thinking, other cognitive issues, and so on. So Alzheimer's is just one of the dementias. So the dementia is like an umbrella term, and under that Alzheimer falls. So Alzheimer's is is a kind of dementia. Okay, and we have like vascular dementia as well, Lewy body dementia, and so on. So there are a number of dementias, but Alzheimer's is the commonest form of dementia.
And in the field of medicine, it is considered a disease.
Dementia is a real disease. It's a condition. It's a real condition. It's a disease. It's a condition of the brain. It's not something that we pretend about or that the person is faking. It's very real because the brain is changing. Plaques and tangles form in the brain. So the brain cannot function the same way. The various chemicals that are supposed to move about are blocked by the plaques that are there in the brain. And that's what leads to the change in the behavior, the change in memory, the change in thinking, the change in so many things, because the brain is changed. Literally, the brain is changed and the brain is becoming smaller. It's shrinking.
So for clarity, we see a number of persons on the road from time to time who we like to say are mentally ill, they're mad, they're out of their minds, and so on. Are those necessarily suffering from dementia, or from Alzheimer's, or another form of dementia?
Most of those persons who are wandering about the street, they would not be suffering from Alzheimer's. They would not be. But a proper diagnosis of anybody who's suffering from anything has to be made by a physician. So we can't just walk down the street and pick them out and say we know what they have. We wouldn't know what they have. They need to be properly diagnosed. But I would say that majority of the people who are wandering about the street, they do not have Alzheimer's.
For the folks listening, Dr. Rollins, Dr. Esdale has already clarified what her doctorate revolves around.
Yes.
Could you tell us whether you are in fact a physician?
No, I'm not a physician.
Okay.
I'm a medical sociologist.
Okay.
That means I'm trained in many aspects of health, and I'm also trained in social sciences, right? So I have a combination of training which suits what I do. I'm a medical sociologist. I taught in medical school, but I worked in medical school. My last job was 17 years as a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Medical Sciences in Trinidad, and I worked at the medical school in Mona in the 80s.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please be advised, neither of our lady friends here is a medical doctor.
Right.
They are both PhDs.
That's right.
They are not MDs.
That's right.
So please be aware of that. Thank you very much.
But there are many questions I can answer because I'm health trained as well.
Definitely, of course.
And I also can add to the psychological aspect of.
You bet. So when you're ready for your questions, you can frame them accordingly. Carry on, Dr. Rollins.
Yes.
You wanted to explain some more about Alzheimer's.
Yeah, okay. So Alzheimer's is the commonest form of dementia that we'll see. It represents about 70% of all the dementias. So if someone says,
and that's global, you're talking global.
Globally,
Yeah.
I'm speaking about globally. And as you say globally, I should just say that Alzheimer's is it's the numbers are growing. Right now there are 50 million persons worldwide with Alzheimer's, 50 million. And we believe from the research that every 3 seconds there's another person diagnosed with Alzheimer's or some similar form of dementia. Okay, so it's not a minor situation. In fact, it's the 6th leading cause of death in the US right now, prior to COVID, because COVID has made a big difference to what is happening. But prior to COVID, it was the 6th leading cause.
So those are last numbers, of course, Doc. So I imagine you're going to tell us what is it that predisposed to this form of dementia, and how can one avoid it or delay it if possible?
Yes. All right. I will say something, and maybe Sharon would like to say something in a little while as well. Well, nowadays I like to compare Alzheimer's in a way with COVID. It's no respect of persons, right? Anybody can get COVID, right?
At any age? Alzheimer's, yeah.
But not Alzheimer's. In that sense, Alzheimer's, there's a difference there.
Okay.
It tends to occur in older persons. So if you...
I'm sorry to interrupt again.
Here a similarity.
It tends to occur, meaning that it can also occur.
Yeah, at an earlier age.
Right.
It can occur at an
That's
earlier
what I want
age.
to emphasize.
Yes, it can occur. Because in the more recent place I worked immediately before coming here to St. Kitts, in our association, we had a lady who was 52 years old, and she was a diagnosed and clear case of Alzheimer's disease. And it was an unfortunate and sad case, because there she was at 52. Her parents were in their late 70s and 80, and they became the caregivers of this person who had full-blown dementia.
Interesting.
So you can imagine how stressful it must have been for them, right? So just to clarify that bit though, about it's more likely to happen in persons over the age of 65, but it can happen earlier, and we are in fact seeing earlier cases. And before I let Sharon come back on, I just want to say one more thing. When Alzheimer's occurs very, very early, as it can do up to like 48 or so, it tends to be the hereditary, genetically linked kind of one.
Okay.
But so those tend to happen earlier, and they represent only a very small percent of all cases of Alzheimer's, about 4% or so. So the majority will be the older, occurring at an older age.
Wow, there's so many ills, so much malaise associated with old age. One wonders if it's almost a curse.
Why do we need
to be old?
Yes.
But
you did ask what we might do to reduce our risk, and
absolutely.
And you did ask. I'll say that before Sharon comes on, because lest we forget what the question was. We would not.
No, I would have reminded you anyway.
Yes. You did ask, can we reduce our risk? And I would say, yes, we can. Though I should also follow that up immediately by saying that I know of people who have done everything that I'm going to say in a minute as to how to reduce your risk, and still they got it. You might say the luck of the draw in their case, or maybe there was a kind of genetic...
Yeah, but that applies to almost every disease.
Of course.
Yeah.
So to what we can do to reduce our risks, then, we can exercise regularly. So it's exercise. It's lifestyle, essentially what it is. We can adjust our lifestyle, so we can have adjust our nutrition, so that we're not eating stuff that's too fatty or too salty or so on. So that's nutrition, exercise, mentally stimulating activity, reduce our risk for type 2 diabetes, because it is the research has shown that the 50% of persons who end up with dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, were perhaps diabetic. So being diabetic significantly increases your risk for dementia. Okay, so those things: reduce your risk for dementia, reduce your weight size. So if you're inclined to be a little bit big on the size wise, you need to try to cut that back, and your exercise and your diet, and those things have been shown to reduce your risk for dementia. A big study was done and reported on recently in the Journal of Neuroscience and Psychiatry, a recent study of 45,000 people. So it wasn't a small study, it was a huge study. And those were the conclusions, that we could actually reduce our risk for dementia by doing the things that I just spoke of, and by not smoking.
Of course. Well, you mentioned two factors there that could contribute to the onset of Alzheimer's, which are almost universal with respect to their contributing to multiple other diseases, smoking and diabetes.
Yes.
So here's another argument, ladies and gentlemen, why we should not smoke. Here is another powerful reason why persons should not smoke. It lessens the probability of acquiring Alzheimer's later in life. And of course, diabetes is an issue, is a problem for everything, every other disease.
Yes.
As far as your knowledge, your information tells you, Doc, does Alzheimer's affect one sex more than the other?
Good question. Good question. We see more women with Alzheimer's, and at first it was believed that it was because women live longer than men. That in any population you will see the longevity of the female is about 4 or 5 years more than man.
Yes, I know.
So,
but that seems to be a contradiction. If Alzheimer's is a leading cause of death, yet and women are major sufferers, yet women live longer.
How does
one reconcile that? That seeming.
I can see what you're saying there, and I'm not sure how we reconcile that. But another factor they've said it's not just being female alone. It's not just the age why we see more.
Right.
It's to do with just the makeup of women and our hormonal situation. So that perhaps would answer your question.
And if I may add that it is more or less age related. At age 65, 5% of persons are experiencing some form of dementia. At age 75, about 10%, and at age 85 and over, 40 to 50% of persons.
Wow.
So Sharon just made an interesting point. The longer you live, the higher will be the probability that you will have dementia.
Do you have information that suggests whether single persons are more prone than married persons? Because
it's just across the board.
Oh, really? Okay.
It has also been reported that major risk factors are genetics, based on research. Head injuries could cause that. Maybe it might not manifest itself at an early stage, but later on in life.
Okay.
As well as toxic environment. You know, in the industrialized world, certain toxic area can also affect the population in that area, which cause, according to your makeup, according to the way you eat, according to the way you treat your body, these toxic environment can also affect your brain and can also cause Alzheimer's disease.
Yes. I'm glad Sharon mentioned that because that's important because we're living in a more complex world where there's much more pollution out there. Research is also suggesting that too much alcohol can also increase your risk of dementia.
Too much. That is very subjective.
it is.
Yeah.
Different people can handle.
No, you speak of a toxic environment, and I think you're referring to the elements in the physical atmosphere.
Yes.
But how about a toxic environment which is derived from dysfunctional families, arguments and fights and emotional and verbal abuse, which in fact is a toxic environment.
That's
I mean, you're a sociologist.
Right.
Yes.
So.
In fact, in the study that I just spoke of, the one with 45,000 people studied, they did one fact that I actually did not mention was stress. They added that stress, and if your life is especially stressful, then that could increase your risk for dementia as well, for Alzheimer's dementia.
Okay. Yeah, you wanted to continue?
Yes,
John?
I was saying, some people, there are some things that people shouldn't worry about. For instance, sometimes we don't remember where we put our keys, we cannot find certain things, or there's a situation where I know a friend looking for his glasses and looking all over the house and the glasses was over his head.
But
I thought they were on his eyes. I thought they were over his eyes.
That can happen as well.
So it's inevitable. It's not every person that have these sort of short-term symptoms. You can say they have the Alzheimer's disease.
Well, Sharon has raised an interesting point, actually. It's a very important point that she said that because not every case of memory loss is a case of Alzheimer's or of the dementia.
Clearly, because
not every case
I've spent all my life Sharon's well in the school system.
Yes.
And when students simply cannot recall information, although you would have instilled it and repeated it again and again,
Yes.
and then whether verbally or in writing, they cannot recall information. They forget everything.
That's
You wonder if
right,
that's
right.
Alzheimer's?
No, that's not
No.
Alzheimer's. And that's why we need a proper diagnosis, a proper and thorough diagnosis.
But memory loss is said to be heavily associated with Alzheimer's.
It is.
But I'm saying we see a lot of that
Yeah.
in younger people, memory loss.
Sure, and it's not Alzheimer's.
Okay, you understand.
So memory loss is usually the first thing that the relatives or the person themselves will tell you.
Okay.
But we mustn't jump to conclusions based on that, because it could be something else. Their memory loss might be related to their diet, might be related to their thyroid problem, it might be related to their anemic state or something of the sort, okay? So that's why we need a proper diagnosis. And when I'm talking about proper diagnosis with their family physician making that diagnosis, I would also speak of the importance of an early diagnosis, because early diagnosis is critical to the proper treatment of the patient. Now, can you imagine a situation? This person is having some memory issues or whatever else. You know, they're forgetting their relative's name and so on. And nobody says anything about it. Nobody takes them off to be evaluated. It means then that everybody begins to look at them out of the side of their eyes, and they begin to act strangely towards them. Now, if they would go off and have go to the physician and have a proper diagnosis, then it would be clear to everybody what is going on, instead of the person going around thinking, because sometimes they don't even think of dementia, they think they're going crazy. I mean, we in our mind, in our everyday mind, or our good mind, if suddenly we begin to feel a little bit different, we're not remembering our relatives' names, or we don't remember where we put anything, or we don't remember how to get to work, because people can be driving down the road and halfway on their way to work they forget.
Disoriented.
Exactly, they become disoriented. So, rather than keeping it to themselves, or their relatives keeping it to themselves, they must have a proper evaluation, because then it makes their life easier for the individual, for their relatives, and for their safety. Because can you imagine if they keep on doing that, they could get into an accident because they don't know where they're going.
Two quick questions before we take a station break and then come back and open the lines. Doc. Is every medical doctor, automatically qualified to conduct a proper evaluation for Alzheimer's?
That's a good question you have raised, and I would say, generally speaking, every family physician will have an idea to do a basic evaluation, but a more thorough investigation would need to go to a specialist. Yeah, but in countries like this, we can't have specialists of everything.
Right.
That's the practicality of it. I mean, there are doctors who are geriatricians, or some people call them gerontologists, though I make a distinction between a gerontologist and a geriatrician, but shall we just say a geriatrician for argument's sake. Those are physicians who specialize in the care of older people in every aspect of the care of the person.
Okay.
In the same way, if you have a little baby, you wouldn't take the baby to a whatever, to a gerontologist. You take the baby to a pediatrician,
right?
And if you're expecting a baby, you take your lady friend to the gynecologist obstetrician, right? And in the same way, there are physicians who are specifically trained in great detail for every aspect of the care of the older person. I'm told reliably that right now we don't have such persons here, but we look forward to the day. I mean, we give praise and thanks to the family physicians who are doing a good job out there, but it would be nice for them to get some assistance from specialist trained persons.
Thank you very much. And the other question was, are you recommending that persons over the age of 65 during his or her yearly checkup, that part of that checkup be an examination of his or her
cognitive acuity?
If you wish, yes. Yeah, I like that. His cognitive acuity. Yes.
In some countries they do that automatically. They do that. Some of the highly developed countries, but I wouldn't say that would be necessary just because of the age. I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I would wait
for signs and symptoms.
For signs and symptoms.
Okay.
Right.
And also we studied in Virgin Islands.
Yes.
We had some psychologists attached to our division, where they would go to nursing homes and do assessment of persons living there, in order that they can have a solid confirmation of their cognitive regression.
Okay.
Or
if
maybe
they're such.
stabilize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we know that some persons up to very late ages are still, I mean, not just
Absolutely.
physically virile, but mentally sharp.
Sharp,
Yes,
You know.
right.
And
Therefore,
so
we
on.
need not subject such persons to such tests
Precisely.
because it's
Right.
clear
Yeah.
they don't need it.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're going to do now, take a station break, and when we come back, we'll open the lines. Okay.
Poinciana Restaurant on the Frigate Bay Road opens daily at 11 a.m. to serve you lunch and dinner. Whether you desire to dine in or take out, Poinciana Restaurant offers both to serve you better. Call Poinciana Restaurant at 465-5216 for your lunch or dinner takeout and reservations.
Whether we go back to school virtually or physically, at Harper's, we've got the best tools to take care of your home office or schooling needs. Our superstore location at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site is the only place where you can get the widest range of school and office supplies on the entire island. Hate long lines? Then ask about our pre-packaged school bundles for one flat price that contains all the essentials. Just pick up, pay, and go. You can also drop off your school list and we'll do the shopping for you. So as we go back to school via Zoom or in the classroom, Harper's will see you through. Harper's, we mean school business.
Business owners and entrepreneurs, now is your chance to sign up for the virtual launch of Sagicor Business Growth Solution, as well as participate in our unique entrepreneurial showcase, an opportunity to network your business among your peers. This coming Thursday, 10th September at 6 p.m. and is free and easy to sign up. Go to www.sagicor.com/business-growth-solution and register now. Sagicor, wise financial thinking for life.
Join us on Sunday, September 13, for the state service of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving in celebration of the 37th anniversary of independence of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This grand service takes place at the Warner Park Cricket Stadium at 4 p.m. God has blessed us as a nation and a people. We pray His continued guidance and protection, and we say,
Thank you. We're back with you, and the lines are open. You can call us if you wish. 465-2555. Welcome, caller.
Yeah, good day. Very interesting topic.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Sure.
What form does the treatment of Alzheimer's take, and what is the expected recovery rate? Thank you.
Did you get that?
Yes.
Sorry, could you repeat it quickly, please? Oh, he's gone.
What he said, what form does Alzheimer's take and what is the recovery rate?
Well, I'll go to the recovery rate first. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease.
It does not.
It is a progressive condition, and that means it just gets worse. Okay?
It cannot be reversed.
No, it cannot be reversed, and there's no medication at this time. There's no medicine outside there right now that will reverse it. There's some medicines that seem to slow the condition down a little bit, but after sometimes 6 months, a year, then those medications don't seem to work so well anymore. So in terms of reversing, we're not going to see that. The research is ongoing. In fact, the last 30-40 years, a lot of research has been done in terms of medicines that they hope would help. But so far, there's been nothing truly successful. About a couple of years ago, they thought they had almost found the magic bullet, so to speak. But within a year, they came back to say, no, this thing that we thought was a magic pill, a magic bullet, is not working.
Doc, are you saying that the recovery rate is nil?
That's right.
Right now.
That's right. The recovery rate
Okay,
is...
caller, you got the answer.
Yeah, the recovery rate is nil.
The other part of the question was, I didn't hear him too
What
clearly.
form, I think?
Yes, what
form
form
does it take?
Right.
Well, it takes first a form of memory loss. And there's a beautiful film which we have shown. We showed it a couple of years ago when it was World Alzheimer's Month, and it was called Still Alice. It was called, yeah. And it tells the story of this lady who was a professor of language, a linguist professor, and she was just speaking one day in her lecture. And all of a sudden, she could not remember what she wanted to say.
Sudden.
And this was a woman who was articulate. I mean, language was her world.
Right.
Like Mr. Blake here.
Definitely.
Language
Definitely.
language was his world. And all of a sudden, she could not remember what she wanted to say. And she was only less than 50 years old. And it was it's a movie that breaks your heart, and it's a real story.
Wow!
But so the person was asking, what form does it take? It takes the form of gradually you lose the words you knew before. So someone who was really brilliant and articulate, they begin to speak more like in a childish way.
And repetitive language is also one.
So they lose the ability to conversate.
Right. Yes, so to speak.
Normally, yeah.
Normally.
And to have a normal. So-called normal conversation,
and they lose the ability to do things that they could do very readily. So if you were, say, a great mathematician and you could solve everybody's problems and add up everything so quickly, you can't do that anymore, and you can't think abstractly anymore. So it's a sad situation.
Wow.
It's a sad situation.
And we are saying we're still open for your calls, ladies and gentlemen, but we are saying that because there is no, like COVID at the moment, no cure. The best process, the best procedure to follow is your lifestyle.
That's right.
Yes.
Eat right, exercise right,
get adequate rest.
Get adequate rest. Of course, refrain from drinking
and
smoking, and of course, think right.
Yes.
I like to add that part. One has to think right. And the Bible, by the way, ladies, the Bible recommends that we think only of things that are pure and right and of good report and so on. The Bible then has a part of the solution to Alzheimer's. Whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, whatsoever things are true and honest and so on, we are supposed to contemplate and think on those things. Yes. Let's take this call. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
I would like to know about dementia. My husband has dementia. He shakes very hard.
He got up? Could you speak a little louder, please?
Hello?
He says he's shaking.
Yes.
Oh, he shakes. Could you speak a little louder, ma'am?
Yes, I said he shakes a lot.
Okay, he shakes a lot, right?
Yeah. And he's young.
He's young?
Yeah. Okay, listen after.
Okay. Well, you didn't tell us how old he is, but
he's young.
You said he's young. But you say he's shaking a lot, and I hope you have taken him to see your family physician, because the mere mention of the business of shaking is a suggestion of Parkinson's. Okay, so.
Which is another form of dementia?
No, it's not another.
Oh, okay.
It's another disease. It's another condition in itself.
Okay.
But it's a condition of the nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. So we are seeing, and we do sometimes see a combination of the conditions. We see Alzheimer's and we see some signs of Parkinson's as well. But you need to take your husband to the doctor so he can be properly diagnosed. And if it is Parkinson's, there's actually good medicines, some really good medicines out there, which will help to reduce his shaking. So in fact, that's a good sign of that. That's a good part of that. You can.
Well, we are hoping she's not guessing that it's dementia. I am thinking, for example, that she would have already been told by a professional that it is in fact Alzheimer's. Well, I'm hoping that she's not guessing that it's Alzheimer's.
Yes.
That she has been told by a relevant professional that it's in fact Alzheimer's, and she said he's shaking a lot. I don't believe that she thinks that because he's shaking, that means he has Alzheimer's.
Parkinson's, though, which means that I feel if she had taken him to the physicians would perhaps have mentioned that word, even if it wasn't a definitive diagnosis. They might have suggested that to her. But we wish her well, and we hope that she will get an adequate diagnosis and adequate treatment, because if there's Parkinson's, then she could get help with that. If it is Alzheimer's dementia, then we hope that she will join our association so that she can learn to take care of her husband, because what we do is we provide support, advice, mention of best practices, because over the years of our experience, we know what other people have done with what that helps, so we could share that kind of advice.
I'm very glad you mentioned that. That is critical information. I think the public is very much pleased with that bit of advice, that in order, if you have a relative, which I started off by talking about, who suffers from that, you can join the association and you'll get good support, you'll get good advice, good information
skills.
as to how to proceed.
As well as
And remember, although they're not meeting physically yet, you can liaise with them via 760-5182. You might wish to take note of that number, 760-5182 or 663-9182. Take note of those numbers, lady, and all who are listening, if you wish to contact any member of the association, and he or she will be glad to give you all the advice and further detail that you need.
And if they
760-5182 or 663-9182. Sorry?
I was going to say, and if they prefer to write an email, which they might write an email to alzskn@gmail.com. That's alzskn@gmail.com.
Very well. So you got that.
Yes.
All right, and so you're invited to actually be a part of the association because it will help both you and your loved one,
Yes.
whether that be male or female. Thank you very much for that information, Doc. That one of the benefits of being part of the association is that one gets professional information based on data, which is driven by facts as to how to better treat those persons who are living with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes, I think one of you was.
Well,
Yeah, carry on.
maybe I'll just say a little bit about caregiving.
Sure.
Because we can't speak about Alzheimer's disease without some special reference to the business of caregiving. Because after a particular point, after a particular stage in the disease, that person will not be able to care for themselves in the way they would have done
Right.
prior to their condition. And caregiving is it can be a very stressful job in itself, and especially if that relative or caregiver has to do the work 24/7 without any assistance. And I would say to people listening out there, if you have a relative with dementia and one person's doing all the caregiving, that's not right. You need to help that person. You can't just leave it up to one person, not because she has a kind heart, not because she has a little nurse training. It's not right. 24/7 is just too much. Caregiving is just too stressful, and she needs help.
It must be a shared effort.
It must be shared. And Sharon wants to say something about the respect grant.
Of course.
Yeah.
Our association not only give support in terms of education, but we also give financial support. Every year we try to give 2 persons or 2 caregivers a grant where they can take a day off and go, to a spa, relax themselves, or pay for someone to look after their family members who has dementia.
And you do that every year religiously?
We do it when we get a request, but
Right.
we tend not to. We don't give it out randomly like that. It has to be a caregiver who's a bona fide caregiver, who's a little bit stressed out by their caregiving role, and so this is one way of saying we recognize your work, we recognize your worth. You can have 2 days off, so we will pay for someone else to come and do your caregiving for you, because caregiving is stressful. We have known of situations where the person doing the caregiving is the one who falls down dead and leaves so we don't want to see that happen to our caregivers.
Yeah, well, kudos to you and congratulations, ladies, on taking that initiative. I think that's an excellent gesture on your part. And so how is your association funded?
That's a good question, and I'm glad we can spend a second on that before we close. We started off with no funds of our own. I mean, we started off literally by every member of the association putting a little money into it ourselves, right? And then we do fundraisers.
Okay.
So every other year we would do a fundraiser. We would do a brunch.
Right.
And those were quite successful.
Okay.
But because of the COVID,
Of course.
we haven't been able to do any fundraising, and we have not been collecting our dues. Only the people who pay their dues at the beginning of the year, as some people do, we pay annually.
Right.
You write a check, I did, Sharon did, and so
Yeah.
on. But those who paid on a monthly basis, we have not seen their.
Of course,
they have
yeah.
not seen.
Thanks to COVID.
Understand, because of the COVID. So that's how we make our money, and please, anybody out there who feels like supporting our association, and if you have a check, you just want to write it to somebody, just write it to us. We will be pleased for that.
Write it to
The Alzheimer's Association.
Alzheimer's Association
Of St. Kitts and Nevis.
of St. Kitts. All of that, or just Alzheimer's Association?
Alzheimer's Association will do. They could write the Alzheimer's
Association.
Yes.
And I'm sure they'll accept a small check. Yeah. Well, a check for a small amount, as well as a check for a large amount.
We would be very grateful.
Definitely.
Because, we're all volunteers. Nobody gets any salary or anything. Right. We all strictly volunteers.
Now, I've read about the peanut butter test. Are you familiar with the peanut butter test for Alzheimer's? As to whether the person can detect, yes, I did a little research, of course, whether the person can properly detect the scent of peanut butter from both nostrils.
Well, we do know that your sense of smell is affected for sure, not only with peanuts butter, but some other things as well.
Right, and they're now saying that with COVID as well.
Yes, with COVID as well.
But, so you have not
the peanut butter specifically.
Yeah, but I was reading that is something that is being practiced now. That it tends to, the professionals, the experts tend to use the responses to make a determination as to the state of probability of the person getting Alzheimer's, or if he has it already, at what level, because I understand there are certain stages, right? Stages. And so they can use that to determine what stage the individual is.
That is really interesting. But we've been looking more at... we follow up on that.
Yes,
we've
peanut
been
butter test.
concerned with people having the specific test, the mini mental test, and the other tests that are already established for Alzheimer's, and of course the scans.
And psychological tests.
And the scans, the MRI and CT scan and so on. Those will definitively determine the changes that have taken place.
Those of you who wish to call us, you have to do so quickly because our time is running out, and we need to hear from you. Yes, caller, welcome. Hello. Yes, we want to hear from you. Okay. Call back, please, and we'll be very ready to accommodate you. Now.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, just as we close, I need to mention that it would be a good thing if we had a national dementia plan in our society, okay? A dementia plan is not something that we as an Alzheimer's Association can put together, but it's a governmental thing. It needs to be done at a higher level than ourselves. But it's something that needs to be done so that we will know exactly what is the problem in our society, how many people are suffering with dementia, what proportion of persons over the age of 65, so that when we speak about it, we know for sure it's not 2 or 3 or 5. We know it's a larger number.
Okay, to be evidence-based.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, caller.
I want to find out if young people can get Alzheimer's.
That's it? Okay, thank you for calling. Sorry, carry on.
Because sometimes I can't remember certain things, so I want to know.
You yourself, as a young person,
if I forget something and I don't do it already, I would think that I still don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, as we said before, usually it's older persons, but we cannot exclude younger persons because if it's the kind of dementia that Alzheimer's that has the hereditary link, it can happen in younger people. But usually it would have happened in somebody within the family, your mother, grandmother, aunt, uncle, somebody. But don't rule it out. But I would say don't self-diagnose. Right. You need to go to your family physician and have a proper diagnosis done. So and then you won't worry. At least you won't worry so much. When we have a diagnosis, we know how to move forward, how to plan for the future.
Yeah, but Dr. Esdale and Dr. Rollins, I've come to the conclusion that the only disease that so-called younger persons cannot die from is the disease of old age. Okay? But any other disease, no matter how much it's associated with so-called older people, so-called younger people
they have that percentage.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, nothing is exclusive to any particular age group.
Yes, you're correct. Yes.
But your advice to the lady is sound, that not necessarily what she's experiencing is not necessarily Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And she could perhaps further discuss it with her physician.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We are getting close to wind down time. You want to have anybody that wishes to share with us? We are open to you for the next 2-3 minutes only. Okay. You want to wrap up then, ladies?
I would just like to say one more thing is that a lot of what we've been talking about, we've been speaking about caregivers who are mainly family member caregivers. But out there in the real world, there are persons who give care to people with dementia who are not family members. And my advice would be that such persons need to access some training. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I don't have a job, I want to be a caregiver.
Right.
Because when you
Because they do this for remuneration.
Of course. So paid caregivers need to have some training.
Right.
And I would like to just say that Mrs. Leader at the Grange, she, along with the open campus, with the university aspect of the campus there, they have established a program whereby people can receive some proper training and
be certified.
certificate and be certified.
Okay, that is excellent.
So that is something.
So just let me repeat that, because for the benefit of the listening public, for those of you persons, I know normally it's ladies, but it could be male as well.
Yes.
If you wish to get involved in taking care of persons suffering from dementia of any form, including Alzheimer's, it is advisable that you get proper training, so that you can have that document. We like to say, where's the paper, to prove that you've gone through a certain amount of formal training. And you can link up with the Grange, the lady in charge of the Grange, or the University of the West Indies Open Campus down at the cenotaph, and they will give you all the details necessary. You enlist yourself, you enroll in the program, you get your certificate, and whenever an opening arises, you'll be the first to be called. Thank you again for that information, and we certainly appreciate it. Over to you, Dr. Isdale.
It was a pleasure being here. We hope that the information that we portrayed or passed on would have been benefit to some, even some persons who have not called in, that our information was valuable. And we also invite you to become, if you cannot be members of our association, to become friends, and we look forward for your support. Thank you.
Definitely, and I'm going to do my part in encouraging others, because I think I'm going to do that myself, become a member, so that I can assist in whatever way.
Wonderful.
Last words from you, Dr. Rollins, as the president?
Yes, just to say that, remember, Alzheimer's is progressive. We do not wish it on any person, but we can reduce our risk by doing some of the things we spoke about, like, exercising, eating just right, not too much of the fatty stuff and the salty stuff. Someone's want me to come and coconut water is good for us, coconut water is good to drink, and coconut oil, real coconut oil, the real coconut oil, that's supposed to be also beneficial.
Yes, because we did hear a lot about coconut oil as if not a cure, as something that can help to reduce, if not remove Alzheimer's.
Yes.
But there's no scientific evidence that points in that direction.
Still ongoing,
but it's just something good for us, generally.
And in fact,
including for younger people.
It won't do you any harm. Let's put it that way.
Right.
It might do you some good. Yes.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, and this is why we're appealing to those fellows who sell coconut water. Stop diluting it with tap water. Sell the pure, raw, undiluted coconut water. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy that you're part of Frank and Candid today, Thursday. We look forward to being with you again tomorrow. And in the meantime, do the right thing. Blessings.